Okay, today we are going to be talking about our newest module. This is going to be on our homepage. You can always find the modules here. Today we are looking at the element of art, line. Line is the most basic of all the art elements. We talk about line, shape, color, texture, all those types of things. Line is that most primary tool that artists have. Hi, art explorers. I'm so excited to be showing you the ins and outs of the elementary of art known as line. Anytime you see one of these red words, you can click and it'll bring up definitions so you can understand what we're talking about. A line is a mark made by a pencil, pen, chalk, brush, or similar tool. We often think of it as a point that travels through space. Before we get started, I want to introduce you to some of the artists that you can find around your own community who use line to create their artworks. And so, if you are in Lexington, you can go up to the Artist Attic down on Main Street. I think it is near. It's in the old Victorian Square, and you can find an actual potter working. A guy who does pottery. There's a painters, oil painter, acrylic painters. There are printmakers, illustrators, no glass blowers, I don't think. Some sculptors, all kinds of different artists. When we talk about a potter, we talk about someone who makes pottery using, you know, material we bring out of the earth. We can shape it, form it, fire it, heat it up in a kiln, and it becomes permanent. A painter can use anything from oils, acrylics, watercolors, those types of things. Often even painting in dry media like pastels, that sort of thing. Sculptors carve things, make things into three-dimensional. They can work subtractively where they carve into, maybe additively as they build things on. We'll look at several different artists and sculptors over the course of this semester. Glass blower, there's Stephen Powell over in Danville is probably the leading glass blower in this area. He's very well known, nationally known. Using artistic skills, it can be a challenge for an artist to make a living creating fine art or art sold at galleries. But don't fret. Artists can also use artistic skill to create utilitarian artworks. Now, they're calling it utilitarian. Utilitarian meaning an object that has a use or purpose. Well, most art has a purpose. And it should all have a purpose, either to tell a story or to express our feelings or emotions, or what we call a functional purpose. And that's what the word I tend to use, and I prefer over utilitarian. But functional. What function does it provide? Think about functional art as ceramic bowls, where it's both a cool piece of pottery and art, but it's also a functional bowl that you can eat cereal out of. Graphic designers are a type of artist. Graphic designers help create a vision for a company, organization, or individual to help them sell a product or communicate a message or idea. Andy Warhol is one of the artists that we're going to talk about. He's a graphic designer for many years before he became a pop artist, and we're going to talk about pop art throughout the semester. His graphic background inspired his personal artworks as well. What do graphic designers create? Well, anything from advertisements, posters, magazines, newspapers, flyers, and more. Um, these are advertisements for an overseas airways company, British European Airways. Branding, and when we think about what types of brands, think about logos that go on brands. Um, it can be things like the packaging. If you they're showing you the Campbell soup cans, but in the modern era, the Nike swoosh, the little Adidas triangle, those are real common branding logos. We think about illustrators, the people who provide the pictures that go with the books we like to read. If you think about Eric Carle, he was one of my daughter and I's favorite authors. He did a lot of his own illustrations using layered paper. There's comic artists that illustrate pictures that tell stories in panels. Sometimes they're to make us laugh or to think about things. Animators create animations, which are just moving pictures, moving images. And so we can think about cartoons, movies, advertisements, lots of different things use animation. And then there's those fine artists, artists that create fine art that's designed to be put on the wall, to hang in galleries, and that sort of thing. Architects design the buildings that we live in and attend schools in. that we work in. We're going to look at some of the work of Frank Lloyd Wright throughout this semester, as well as I think two other architects. And it's interesting to kind of see how different architects approached our living spaces in different ways. Fashion and textile designers, the people who make the clothes and the fabrics that we wear and that we create with. Fashion designers create things like not just the clothing and stuff, but also like interiors of cars. They might create the upholstery for furniture and that sort of thing. Spotting behaviors. Now that we've examined a few of the artistic careers, we want to bring you to a gallery and show you the work of a local artist. But before we begin, it's important to understand how we should behave when we're around the work of others. So it looks like this group of children is visiting an exhibit. Before we go, we need to take a look and see if they're doing it right. Do you see any correct or incorrect art behaviors? Well, let's look here. Yeah. Well, I'm going to start here in the top left-hand corner. And I'm going to be honest, I think she's doing okay. I don't think she's approaching anything too close. But this kid, my goodness, what's he doing? He's juggling a juice box, some chicken nuggets and some crackers while blowing a bubble with bubble gum. And his friend there is not helping him out at all, is he? I think this is just a recipe for disaster. It looks like this young lady is trying to talk some reason, only she's probably yelling at him, which is just making the situation worse. Good intentions. This is probably not the behavior we want to see. No. Yelling, pick me, pick me. No, I don't think that's a good idea. No, I don't. I don't think you should be yelling at the gallery director or the person who's giving us the tour that they should be picked on. This young lady seems to be doing it just right. She's listening to what he has to say, and she's got her hand up so that she can ask a question. Awesome. This young man seems to be doing it just right. He's not touching the sculpture. He's looking at it from a distance. He's pondering. You see he's scratching his chin. Like, I wonder what the artist was thinking. This young man is not paying attention where he's going. He's looking this direction, but he's walking this direction towards this sculpture with his hand out. I don't like any of that. I don't know what you all were thinking, but that is no-go. And these students are probably doing okay. They may be talking about the different exhibits, but nobody seems to be doing anything incorrect or inappropriate. So what did we see incorrect and correct and incorrect behaviors? I think we kind of went over that and took a look at some of the behaviors that they were doing that we recognized probably weren't the best. A group of people showing proper and improper museum behaviors. In the first group of people, there's one person throwing their drink and food up in the air while blowing a bubble with their gum. Second group of people are listening to the guide at the museum. Two of the people are raising their hands and waiting patiently, while the other person is yelling, "Pick me!" In that third group, we saw one person looking at the sculpture and thinking about it, while the other person is just running towards the sculpture, arm out, ready for disaster. It was not going to end well. Okay. So meeting local artists, and this is one of the things I would encourage you to do once the pandemic is over, or do a virtual visit. There's a lot of artists that are available online. You might be able to be invited into their gallery space in a virtual way. Getting to get into an artist studio space is a unique and wonderful opportunity. You get to see sort of the process that an artist uses, not just the way they work, but what they work with, what the materials look like, how they organize their space, and you might find commonalities, things that you recognize that are similar to what you do. It looks like this artist has been busy creating paintings using what he knows about line. In the text box, jot down the names of a few kinds of lines that you spot in his artwork. I would like for you to do this in the chat. So as we look at these types of lines, and we want to think about what kind of lines are there. Let's take a look here what this is going. Oh, this is going to be it. I'm telling you to go online and look for the artists. We'll talk about that in a minute. But when we look at this work of art, we see different types of line. And so I want to discuss a few with you, and you can kind of start pointing out which painting you see these types of lines in is fine. But you'll see lots of straight lines. We see thick lines, thin lines, curved lines, zigzag lines. I see implied lines where there's not really even a line there. It's just an implied line. I see lines created by value. I see contour lines, and a contour line is a line that sort of follows the outside of a shape, if you will. I see crosshatch lines. We got lines that go over one direction, come back over. Maybe not. I don't see too many crosshatch lines. I may have overstepped my boundaries on crosshatch, but we see lots of different types of lines being used. Studio time. So this is what we're going to be doing on our make day, which for fifth grade is Thursday. Uh, I'm going to ask you to start thinking about. Uh, this is an activity they've got using. We're going to be doing a landscape. Is what we're going to make on Thursday. What they have you doing here is sort of taking a look at the idea of sketching and some ideas that you might have for landscapes. What I would like for you to think of between now and Thursday. And again, let me remind you, if you go through these modules, I combine a lot of these assignments, like this assignment with the assignment we're going to do on Thursday, is really a combined assignment. And I'll show you here. We're going to jump forward here. I'll show it to you. We're going to look at landscapes before we leave today. And we're going to draw a landscape on Thursday. And so this is the actual assignment we're going to do. But they have those little sort of built-in process assignments that you can kind of build on. And so that's what that one's asking you to do, is just kind of think about what you might do in your landscape and start jotting down ideas. And I would recommend between now and Thursday, you might want to do that, so that when you come to class on Thursday, you know what you're going to draw and what you're going to paint. So we're going to kind of breeze through this pretty quick as far as looking at the gallery space, but we do want to take a look at this little video.
Since the beginning of time, all art has started with line. There are thick lines, thin lines, and loopy lines too. What kind of lines represent you? Artists use lines in all kinds of ways. They use them in things as different as spiral glass sculptures and curvy pots for holding bouquets. Some lines go way up high. They reach and try to touch the sky. Line can show feeling. Making marks can be healing. Give splattering, spontaneous lines a try. Let your lines go awry. A line can show pattern, texture, and more. Look carefully at all the different lines to explore. There are endless opportunities. Lines can even speak about your community. Vertical lines go up and down. Horizontal lines go from side to side. Don't forget about diagonal lines. They lean over and lead to leaning designs. Check out these bold, jagged scratches or these delicate, wavy frills. Each kind of line takes craftsmanship and skill. Straight, tidy, and parallel lines. Lines that cross and make grids that bind. Some lines have rhythm. They jiggle and prance. Zigzag lines help an artwork dance. Lines have a voice. Did you know they have style? They look a certain way and say things all the while, like the dashes and dots of Vincent van Gogh. There are things only they can say and show. Gesture and contour lines help create flow. Always have those kinds of lines ready to go. Lines, lines, lines galore. Go on and play around with them. What are you waiting for? Use lines to sketch a plan, then paint a masterpiece on top. A pencil or camera can make lines non-stop.
All right, all about line. I love that little video. Okay. So your first mission inside the gallery is to look for and find that element of line. And we've kind of gone through some of those paintings and looked at those thin lines, thick lines, curved lines, and that sort of thing. We're going to look here though at how Ansel Adams, this black and white photographer, used line, and you can see here this thin line that's created by these power lines. And then they're just dotted with these little birds here in the sky. So you get this sort of vertical, the pole coming up here, the vertical created by the pole, and then we got these cool horizontal lines that kind of cross, and then we see the diagonals coming up from the left and the right here to the right. Oh, I'm gonna go back because I'm gonna look at a couple of those others. Well, I keep hitting the wrong button. Vincent Van Gogh, and I love the way Van Gogh used line. If we've seen the painting Starry Night, you've seen the wavy lines that create the sky and the clouds and so forth. And here he's using those same types of lines to create these trees and the grasses and all that neat stuff. Degas creates these beautiful landscapes with lines, and he creates these sort of flowing lines that create the contours of those mountains and the hills in the back. Georgia O'Keeffe used line, and these paintings, these big, bold, striped lines, look, that create the mountain ranges here. So when we look at line and the different types of way the artist, it jumps into three different types of art, and specifically how you look at landscape through the eyes of three different types of art. And so we're really going to sort of kind of stop here today, and we're going to talk more about those three different types of art a little on Thursday, a little more when we start doing our actual painting. But just understand that when we talk about realism, abstract, and non-objective, as you think about what you're going to want to do in your landscape, very often, we try to go for realism, then we get frustrated, and we go, oh, I'm just going to go with abstract because it's easier. Honestly, abstract is very difficult. It's sometimes harder than realism because you've got to figure out how to make something look real and then how to change it beyond that. When we talk about non-objective things, we're talking about things that don't have an object that you can identify in them. So they don't really even apply to landscapes. That's one of the reasons I don't really want to get into it today. We're going to look at making a landscape on Thursday. So bring art materials, pencil, paper if you have it. If you don't worry. I'll show you how to use Chrome Canvas or one of the online applications. Don't go anywhere because I still have to do attendance. And then we'll talk more about this in just a second.